Today I want to talk about differentiation in the classroom. And differentiation means tailoring instruction to meet individual needs. Carol Ann Tomlinson said differentiation means giving students multiple options for taking in information. Not all students are going to learn the same way. And here are a few of my favorite sayings of my own, I guess. Instruction is not a one-way teaches-all thing. Every child deserves the right to learn their way. In a class of student writers, there will be one writer. One student who does not learn by writing, they need to vocalize everything. Or they can't learn by simply sitting there reading the text, they need to hear it read to them. And it is our job as educators to make sure that every single student is taught on the way that they need to be taught. We must teach according to how all our students learn, not just the majority of our students. Here's some common ground. Content, which is what the teacher wants the students to learn, and resources used to accomplish that task. The process is the activities designed for the students to use their skills to make sense of the information that they've obtained from the content. Products or demonstration of what the students have learned. The environment is a very important factor. Many students cannot sit in a classroom the way you and I can. I have several students who asking them to sit still for 45 minutes is an impossible task. I have one student who has a taped off section of his desk. He can get up and walk around that desk area. He just can't leave this taped section. He does not bother anyone. In fact, he retains more from being able to do this than from being made to sit in a desk for 45 minutes. So you have to be able to alter your environment as part of your differentiation. Some students cannot sit there for 45 minutes. Some need to be stimulated. You may put a piece of Velcro tape underneath the desk just so they can rub their fingers against it. A lot of times they use that as a mechanism for focusing on what's being taught and what's being said, but they need that stimulation through their fingertips so that way they can concentrate. Readiness, students' ability level for increased learning, and then the learning profile, how an individual student learns. If you don't know how your students learn, are you really an effective teacher? I mean, that's something we all need to think about as educators. You can't go in with a cookie-cutter idea because not all cookies are going to be cut the same, especially when it comes to teaching our youth. They're all going to be different learners. And we must be able to accommodate that, and we must be able to change our lesson plans in order to make sure that all of our students are grasping the concepts. Ways to differentiate instruction in the classroom. And I've tried to instill a lot of these in my classroom. I do a lot of one-on-one instruction. If we're doing something and it can be split up into where, we can do groups in our classroom, but maybe there's one or two students who need to have it broken down just a little bit more, simpler to them, and maybe a little bit more explanation. I will pull them to my desk, and us three will make a group, or just us two will make a group. I also do a lot of cross-age peer tutoring. In my classroom, my classes are sectioned off 7th, 8th, 9th graders, pre-AP, regular classes. So by that, I take a look at their star reading scores, and I try to pair them up. Maybe not exactly cross-age, but maybe by cross-strength, per se. I put my stronger readers with my weaker readers. In my classroom, it is mandatory that everyone reads aloud. I'm trying to build a class of better readers, more fluent readers. So I try to make sure that everyone is comfortable reading. And I've made it clear to them that it will not be tolerated for you to make, comments or jokes or laugh or anything with other people when they're trying to read aloud. All of us struggle with something. And I remember being that student in 4th and 5th grade that struggled with reading aloud, and I hated it. I'm still not just overly comfortable with it today. And I try to show my students. I even take turns reading aloud whenever we're reading aloud in class. Reading aloud helps assist those auditory learners. Not everybody can sit and read directly from a book and comprehend everything they read. So we have to be able to differentiate even auditory learners. So with my novels this semester that I'm teaching my students, I have all the novels on audiobook. I have one 8th grade class who has said, can we just not do the audiobook? Can we just take turns popcorn reading? Because they do better hearing each other read than hearing, a monotone narrator read. And that's fine with me. Whatever they want to do in order to improve their learning. I'm a big proponent of, as long as you're comfortable, and as long as you're engaged, and as long as I call on you and you can pick up reading wherever we're at, I don't care if you sit on the floor, I don't care if, you're sitting on my small bookshelf, you can sit, chair beside me, a regular chair beside me. I had the principal come into my classroom the other day, and I was sitting on the front of my desk, leaned upon my podium, and there were 2 other students sitting on my desk, and the bookshelf against my wall was filled with probably 7 or 8 students. Everyone was focused. No one hardly even heard her come in or saw her, and she took pictures and sent to our superintendent. My students were engaged. They were picking up on what they were reading, and it was another differentiation tool. It took them away from their regular desk setting, but it was okay because they were still engaged and they still learned, and it didn't mean that just because they weren't stuck in a desk in the normal appropriate position that they weren't learning. They learned. And I found that if they're more comfortable, they usually learn a little bit more. So I've told them, if whatever it takes, I just want you to be comfortable, and I want you to be engaged. I want you learning, and if that means you need to come in and take off your shoes, that's fine. I provide materials for some of my students who are on a lower level, reading-wise. If we have a class assignment, I provide them the same materials, just maybe on a different reading level. I've taken it and broken it down my own self and retyped it just for them. And I've also referred some of my students who needed just a little extra assistance to stay on track to after-school tutoring, just to get them through the rough parts that we're going through that maybe they don't completely understand. And it seems to work. Another way to assist students to maintain their level, like over the summer, would be to refer them to summer school programs. So this is how I've instilled this in my classroom as a specific example. This was their assignment. It was to contextualize To Kill a Mockingbird. And it breaks it down. And some of the requirements is where I would really like for you to specifically look. If as you scroll down the page, you'll see that they're going to have to teach the class for at least 10 minutes. And they could do skits, they could do puppet shows, they could do talk shows, TV parodies, videos, raps, any creative way that they were comfortable with. If that meant they wanted to stand up there and try to act like, Mr. Rogers off Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood and give the lesson. Whatever it took for them to be able to do that. We also had them going down to the next part. I gave them different topics that they could do, and I tried to give them topic starters so that way they'd have at least some direction of where they needed to go in this whole vast, breakdown. We did this as part of an introductory to the assignment to start our novel. And so then the ones who were listening, they, I had some who presented PowerPoints, and so they also had to present a visual, and they could do a poster, a PowerPoint, or something overhead on the Interwrite board, and that gave my visual learners, that gave them that piece of the pie. That gave them something that they could see and wrap their brains around, and they could take notes from that, because there was a quiz that followed. And then here is my rubric that followed this. And I broke it down simple to all of them, so it's easy for them to understand. So, there was no problem with that. And this is how I have worked on differentiation in my classroom with a specific assignment. And I think it's our goal as educators that we owe it to the students we educate and to the schools that we educate in to make sure that all students have the right to learn the way they need to learn. Differentiation is the key to many of our students' success, and we're entitled as educators to do it.